Hi, this is Antminer Repair, and tonight we're going to go through the entire process of chip replacement, except for the part of taking the chip off. If you're interested in this topic, keep watching and hit that subscribe button, and also hit that bell over there because that will notify you when I do more videos. Tonight we're gonna go through the chip replacement using the IRDA SMD BGA rework station by YiHua, the YiHua 1000B. Nothing is guaranteed to work in this video, so as you watch it, if you disagree with how I'm doing something, you may be right, you may not. This is how I found the closest way to get a chip on the board. I've been successful for a couple. There's a real trick keeping a hold of the chip and make sure it doesn't move when you heat it up. So hopefully we'll have luck tonight. I've been experimenting with different amounts of flux basically on here, because if you put too much flux on, it's okay, I can have flux on here. If you put too much flux on here, it tends to walk while it's getting heated up. So, all right. So one last thing, there's we have a Discord channel, and there's over 100 people in there. There's some real experts on fixing Antminer boards and probably some other boards. I highly recommend, if you have questions about fixing boards, that you join the Discord channel. The link is on the top, and make sure when you join, there's a little green check mark in the rules thing, and that will give you access to all the forums. We're just going through some, we've had so much content put in the last month. We're going to start splitting it up by miner type, but there's a ton of history in there, lots of repair manuals, lots of stuff. So can't say enough. That's a great resource. You can go talk to people, ask questions, and maybe not, but most likely they might have a question or point you in the right idea. Okay, so here we go. The first thing I need to do is I've got the chip off. I'm not going to try to replace the chip. I'm not going to try to reuse the chip. Mere fact, I just want to take you through using a brand new chip. Now, you could use a used chip. You just have to brush up the legs on the whole thing. So why don't we start here with working on this pad? And one thing that's been happening lately, and I've got a lot of boards waiting, is if you see, geez, what do I got on there? Flux. If you actually see, you look really close, right here on this loop thing, these legs go all the way into the pad right there. And actually right here on that access point, that leg is at the same level as the pad. The only thing stopping the solder from crossing over is this, it's called solder resist, or it goes by some other names. So I have to be really, really careful when I clean this pad and when I work on these legs. I want to take the old solder off. This has probably most likely been non-lead solder, and I've got leaded solder, so I really don't want to mix. This looks like it probably has a lot of solder on it, so I probably want to take some of the solder off here. This guy looks pretty good. I could probably get away with not cleaning them, but I'm going to rub the solder wick over that anyway. So just be careful. I'm going to try really hard not to touch this or this. If I touch this or this, the night's done. I have to wait till I get the paint. I get that stuff Tuesday or Wednesday, and I've got two versions. One is you can paint on it and maybe heat it and wait a couple hours, and the other version is a UV hardening type of stuff. The problem is once you get solder over here, I think it's going to be really hard to clean it up so that paint will stay. Otherwise, the solder will melt underneath it and still travel through. So it's going to take a heck of a cleaning job to get through that. So enough of that. Let's go work on the pad. I've got a pretty big tip on my soldering iron. This guy is kind of like a chisel. I like using him for the pad areas, and I probably will use him to clean these off too. I just don't want to get around those legs. And so I use the wick and a bunch of flux to get that off. So I'm going to turn him on. I usually turn him on pretty high, up in the 400s, just because to heat that pad is a lot of work. So we'll go ahead and flux up, especially I want to clean that guy. We'll just do a little bit of cleaning here. So let's take care of this side first, then we'll do something with the legs. And I'm going to cut a piece of wick off. A lot of people hold the wick thing in their hands. I usually cut a slice off and hold it with the tweezers. So, all right. So my soldering iron's on its way to getting hot. I probably should go travel the way of this. So we're at 429, so clean that chip a little bit. So we're going to clean off the top part of the chip first. So I'm going to just press that dude and back and forth until it gets kind of warm. It doesn't look too bad, actually. Yeah, let's take a look at it. And I actually still got solder on it. I'll dip in the flux here and borrow some. I don't have to take it all off. I just don't want it built up there. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty good. So let's look on the back. Didn't get too much. So let's get the base clean. I'm gonna go this way. Takes a while to warm up that base. I gotta stay away from that bridge. And you know, if a little's left over, that's okay. All right. So that's a little burned flux down there, but I'm pretty happy. There wasn't a lot of solder on here in the beginning. So let me look at my flux. Not a whole lot picking up. There wasn't a whole lot on there. So let's take care of these legs very, very carefully. I'm gonna put some flux on those and see if we can pick up at least the upper part here. I'm really worried about doing this now that I've scorched a couple boards. So close enough. I'm not going to go any closer than that. That's pretty good. Maybe something up here. Let me look up here. No, he's pretty good. I'll flip the wick over. Let's see here. All right, let's do the other side. I got to be careful about this double pin down here. You'll even notice when I lay solder on it, it's really hard to lay solder on it because it goes across. It's a different level than everything else. So. All right, so let's go this way. One more time in the place I don't want to do it. Boy, that's close. Okay, I might go up high and get these. Okay. All right. Should have had my fume extractor on because I see some smoke and I'm wafting it. Please get a fume extractor. Better for your health. All right. So let me clean that up. Let's have a look at it, see how I did. Yep, spilled my alcohol. I always pour it out in the lid. Okay, looks like we did pretty good preserving our bridges there. All right, just made a mess with my alcohol, and I need to go get more paper towels. Okay, now there's a couple ways I can actually plant solder on here. The way I actually prefer to do it, but I'm not going to do it anymore, at least for a while. I'm really skittish about those bridges because once those bridges are gone, you can't put the chip on, and I'm not sure how easy it's going to be to repair. So I'm kind of watching for that. So tonight, instead of bringing in my solder and my iron flux and just running it down, which tends to give good coverage, I'm going to use solder paste, and I'm going to use the heat gun, and hopefully I can get pretty decent coverage on that without having to use the soldering iron as much. So here goes. We'll see how I do here. I've got a needle I can help spread this stuff out. See if I can kind of keep a. Oh, this solder, by the way, is Chip Quick TS391AX. It's the same thing as the paste I use for the chip. So we'll see how this goes. I'm going to have to spread it out. All right. Maybe I'll do one side at a time just for the heck of it. Let me clean this up a little bit. This guy needs to go there and then somewhere down here. I probably have enough paste on here to kill a cow here. I'll take some of it back. I'm probably going to end up with bridges anyway. There's always a tendency to put too much solder on things. Let me just take some off, wipe it off. Let's reduce it just a touch. I don't want to make a bigger mess than that's pretty good, actually. I want to get enough on there. Look, my last leg isn't quite covered up there. Leave that up there. All right. So if I end up with a disaster here, I can always fix it with a soldering gun. So let's take my hot air gun. I'm going to run it at probably 350. Hopefully that'll do it. I'm going to use low air, and I'll try to do this with the microscope. Looks like it's going to make a big mess. Maybe it is. I might have to use a higher temperature. Looks like it. Let me bump this up to 415. Well, there's 400. Let's give that a shot. It's working it. I think I put way too much paste on it though. Up to 415. But I think I'd rather have just a little much. I kind of like to have enough solder for the chips. So booger to heat those. Yeah, one big bridge. Yeah, there. Come on back. Come on back. You can do it. Come on. Come on. You at least get to that end. All right, let's see what I did here. Okay. Looks like I have some things to clean up. So I don't know if that improved that or not, but thought I'd give it a try. So let's kill that for a sec. So I got a mess here and a mess there. As long as it doesn't touch this, I'm okay. I don't want to clean that up again because I might hit a leg. So let's change tips and get to my other tip. These look beautiful. These are like maxed out, have the right amount of solder, more than I usually get. Hopefully I can do that with these right here. It's kind of like soft still. I'll just run a thing down. So how are we doing here? Got to move that off the, keep off that leg. All right, let me change the tip. I'm going to change from the cleaning tip to the, yeah, this might work actually. Maybe I'll try the big tip. Let me get it down in temperature though. Because I tried it once and it really worked good. So I usually use a very small tip on this, but let's try a big tip. So what I'm going to do, I really don't want it to go here, so hopefully I can keep it from doing that. But let's get rid of this big, huge thing first. Yeah. Come on, 350. Oh my gosh. There it goes. So you know what? Maybe the too much solder paste wasn't a good idea. So live and learn. There, push that dude off. That looks pretty good. It just kind of made a solder ball and went off. So let's go play here. Lots of flux. Man. Okay. One more pass over that. Ah, wrong stuff. Gee, money. Get my alcohol. I don't want more solder on there. This is what you have in unedited videos. So good old Q-tips. So yeah, so see, I still have a couple balls that are riding high. I'd like to smooth those down. Let me clean up a little more. Let me get another piece of. I put some solder down in there, and I don't want that really floating around anywhere. So. All right. Besides that, I'm pretty happy with those legs. They're full, nice, full of solder. Let me get rid of the solder here. All right. More flux. This should be the right stuff this time. Okay. Here goes. Still think it's got too much on it. Let's see. Yeah, maybe I'll leave it. Let's take a look at it. So that didn't work too well with my solder paste. Maybe we'll go back to the other method there. I guess I'll show you both. Just a little bit too aggressive on the amount. I really think that's a lot of solder. Although it's shorter, so if you spread it out, it would probably be okay. I just don't want to do any bridges when I put the chip down. And these two bumps are over that central bridge. So let me Let's change tips here for a sec. That I can heat it up. Let me try a little more heat. Heat and flux. See what that does. In the 400s. See what's happened is it's just not picking up the excess, and I can do that with a smaller tip. So, all right. So got a hot tip I got to change. So hang on. So do that with a pair of tweezers. I don't need my cleanup tip anymore for this video. All right. I can be more selective with this tip. So I try to run these tips pretty low just because you're working with a board. Okay, tips on. Let's heat her up. We heat it up to 350. Let's make sure we have enough flux on there. Looks like we got, you know, it's really not that bad, but I'd like to take a little bit off there. See if I can do that. There. That did it. Okay. So let's clean that side up, then we're going to do the other side the old way. Except I'm really worried about the bridges over there, but it looks like we did okay on the bridge on this side. Just make sure our work is good. Make sure I haven't clobbered anything. That last one looks a little funny. It's just built up high. Same thing with that one. There's actually quite a lot of solder on there. So I think those are sticking up good. Really, normally what I do is lay down flux, have some solder, and I just kind of work it, and it's pretty quick. That was kind of the long way to do stuff. But yeah, they're built up nice though. So I don't think I've put any excess in here either. I kind of kept it off the pad, which is good. All right, so we're going to do the old method now. I just have to be careful for those pads right there. So let me get some flux. I need my, this basically is, I think, the same solder. I'm pretty sure I bought it. Oh, you can't see it. See, it's the 183 melting point flux core solder, but I'll use it with flux all over. So. All right, so we're going to try to keep it off the pad. Here's the other way I do it. Those two down there always give me grief. Let's see what we have down there. Let me get some flux on it. Got a bridge. Let's try to wipe it down. Get the excess off. I think I did it, maybe not. Boy, it's really hard to tell in this light sometimes. I'm gonna have to clean it off to find out. Let me just wipe it. Okay, so I've still got a pretty good bridge across that. Still, we're doing pretty good. We haven't harmed it. So yeah, try to take that off. So I'm cleaning my tip really good each time I do this, so the tip will pick up some of the excess solder, like that. See? All right. Now the question is how are we doing on that bridge? So let's clean up a little bit. I'm gonna put my solder away. Alcohol back out. Sorry, I just hit the microscope up. All right, let's take a look. Yeah, so we're good and intact. It looks like we're in pretty good shape. So I think that guy is pretty much ready to take a chip. So those are the two techniques, although go easy on the solder paste if you do the solder paste. I actually, you know, if you look at this, it seems to me, I don't know, it seems to me that these are built up higher than these. These are just kind of tinning the pads, but these really have a lot of solder. But who knows, when I put the chip on, maybe we'll have too much solder and it'll short. I don't know. So we've kind of got two methods there. These look all nice and shiny though. All right, so I'm gonna put this away for right now. We're gonna work on the actual chip. So hang on for a sec. Okay, so let's get rid of this board. Set it aside. Just a second. The beauty of pausing, I can take that call. Okay, so we're going to use the tin. I have to get a chip. So let's do that. These things look like they're made out of gold, huh? For sure. All right, so I've gotten a little better at using these. Took practice at first, the chip would want to come out. Somebody did mention on YouTube a different technique. I haven't had a chance to try it. I want to make sure my new pins. Maybe not. I might have to find my other style of needle. So I'll do that. Okay. So I have this kind of blade tool. You can kind of see the end of it. I'm going to use that. I bought that. And I have a little tub, about 50 grams of Chip Quick TS39 391 AX50. AX50 just means 50 grams of solder. It's the same solder I used for the legs. It's just one was in a syringe and one wasn't. So you see how the template works here. That's always a little deeper for some reason, but maybe just by the way we're looking at it. Yeah, it might just be the way we're looking at it. So I try to keep that lined up. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take a swath. Let me get my paper ready because I always try to clean up the solder right after I do this. All right. I used to use the end of the, I used to use my tweezers, but I finally bought this blade. It definitely works better. Let's see here. Still, I've been doing some of this because it's going down on this side. It's probably too much. I try to put it back after I'm done. So, all right. So basically, I apply pretty good pressure while I'm doing this. And just go all different directions. Catch that template. If I do too much, it'll form a bridge on the chip. If I do too little, it will not solder well. So I kind of leave some on top like this. When I pull it off, I'm going to work it just a touch more. Kind of pack it in there. Probably I've already packed in too much. But, all right, so I can kind of see the pattern here. Let's get the legs covered up. But I can see the pattern down there. So let me put the solder away real quick and utensil. So I wipe that off and I throw it away because it's got lead on it. So it's not good for you guys. Make sure you try to follow safety precautions as best as possible. Okay, so the way I figured out how to lift this off, lift it off the first time, but not ever, is I find a place kind of right in the middle, and I push down on the needles, pushing the chip down, and I just lift it out by pushing the needle down. So generally, that'll do pretty good. Looks like probably I have enough over here, probably too little over here, but it is what it is. So, all right. So the next thing you want to do, I run a heat gun about 350. And I use these wide blade tweezers. I don't try to use the small blade, the small little pick tweezers. So I'll pick this up. I'm going to take it off screen while I do it. So I wait for the heat gun to heat up, and we'll see the result of our solder after that. And I might have to clean up the chip basically after that. So, okay, 350. Let me do my magic on the chip. I used to do this at 450. It's just you don't need that much heat for the chip, and I don't want to damage the chip. Okay. And the right side looks pretty good. All right. I'll show you the end result. I'm going to move this out of the way. I'll probably have to refocus. Let's take a look what happened here. Not bad. Not bad for video anyway. So in reality, sometimes you can, let me focus this a little better. It's kind of hard to focus because there's glimmer, and I got to clean this up. But in reality, sometimes you'll see a flat pad sitting here that'll have a little solder, but it never built a leg. So basically what I do, you still see the paste on this needle tip. Basically what I do, I come in here with my needle with a very small amount, apply it, and then heat it with the heat gun again. And then I just do that with both sides. Sometimes there's a bridge here. That's kind of a big ball there. Sometimes there's a bridge here. And so I'll take my soldering iron at 300 degrees and a lot of flux just alongside. I don't want to put solder on the pad here. At 300 degrees, and I'll just slide it along, and I'll keep working it until I get that bridge off. Then by taking that off, if the bridge took off too much solder, I reapply it until I get it right. You have to be patient and do all this just perfect. So I'm going to wash this chip now in alcohol. It does still have some, residue flux left over. So. Okay, looks pretty good now. Kind of wet. So I'll dry this off. In theory, and I'm not sure, this is how I do it, but in theory, they say that the edge, you can kind of see where the solder is too much and where the solder is not enough. It's supposed to be above the pad. You see, I don't have it above the pad there. Now, if I turn around, the side that had more solder, these are above the pad mostly. So, see over here, it's there, not necessarily above the pad. So, but the good thing is, I have my board prepared well. So I think, boy, getting close up to my fingers there. I think this should work. Everything's tinned. It'll set in there. I've had problems with the legs on both sides being too much because the legs won't sit on each other, so the chip will be off to the side of one leg. So. All right. So next step is to look at the board, get the chip on the board, and then position the chip as close as we can. And I try to get it really close. It's going to try to move anyway. I'm going to try to not put too much flux so it locks. But, I put a lot of flux on the legs, so it's kind of hard. Let me figure out where I put the board. Huh. Is that it? Got to make sure I have the right board. Yeah, that's our board. That's right. Okay. So here's the chip. All right. So it's a little tricky. Here comes the tricky part. I think I've got the soldering down and melting everything, getting everybody melted okay. But with the flux on here, it tends to slide off. If I poke it with the tweezers, I'll push it over this way or push it over this way. If this baby isn't kind of in the center, it won't sink down and develop the nice balls. You see these balls right here? That's what we're looking for. So I'm looking for kind of a soldering job like that. So here goes. I'm gonna apply some flux here and some flux here. And I've had a lot of flux on here, and I've come in with a really hot air gun at 450. I just think it's too much. I'm gonna try maybe 400 to do this. I do put solder on the leg. I make sure, because this has got to go through a heating plate. I'm going to probably add some more a little bit later, but you want some good flux on the legs, okay? A little bit on the body. All right, so flop. Let's get my favorite tweezers. Now you see this line down here? Most of the chips are right on that line. It sure helps. And that corner is right on the corner of the chip. The problem is the flux is like a magnifying glass and distorts the view. So sometimes you think you have it lined up and you really don't. So see, when I moved it that way, usually the whole chip would move down, but because our legs have solder on them, they're catching. And so it makes just the job harder. All right, so I think I need to move it forward some, like about right there. Man, I'll tell you what, that looks pretty good. The other thing I look at with a different type of microscope is that the legs are equally on each side, because sometimes if the chips move too much this way, this guy's left out in the raw, or this guy. So you want it to be very centered between these two chips. So I'm going to use, I have a small digital microscope. I just take a peer in here just to make sure. And the funny thing is the chip's going to move anyway. The chip will move before I can use the solder to hold it in. So that's really well positioned there. If anything, it needs to come over that way some. Let me compare it to here. Yeah. So if anything that I would do, I would make sure that's clean. If anything I would do is just touch it straight in. Okay. Yeah, see, I tried to do too much, and there she goes. Now, if you're an expert and can just smell the flux, you can maneuver the chip around, but it's like a little bit. Yeah. These tweezers are sticking to the chip. Slow and steady. Getting close. I'm gonna come in from this angle. Really close, but it's over on this side a little too close. I'm gonna try to clean the corner here with the flux. I'd like to see the corner. So there's that corner. It's way out over here, so I'm really over this way too much. So try to get the chip just a little further away. It's probably gonna move on me anyway. Yeah. All right. Let's see if I can push it down. Probably not. I'm gonna let the flux run out. Okay. So I'm not quite on the line where I want. I literally usually put it right on the line. Back over. Because I have those solder legs. All right. Let's try that. So now if this moves while I have it on the hot plate, it's really difficult with all the equipment to just look straight down on it like we're doing with the microscope. I'll just have to do my best. And that's where I've had the problem. I can get the soldering good, just that I can't keep the thing moving around. Somebody said you might be able to tack a corner, somehow hold it down. So I think I'll probably be exploring that a little more. This guy's just peeking out, but I think it's flux. Yeah, he's there. Let me check let me check this one more time. Yeah, Looks pretty good. Definitely, if I get the solder, if I get the flux right, the chip will pull itself in right. But usually there's so much going on that I have a hard time doing that. So now, I'm going to switch camera views to the rework station now. I'm going to clear this out. So let me do that. I got to pull it toward me, so let's switch. Okay. I'll probably bring the camera on. I don't want to bump this board. Microscope can leave us for a little while. Yeah, let's see. So that's looking straight down on it. Over here is the temperature probe. I'm gonna line this up. And then this is the infrared light. It has to go right over the chip you're cooking. So looks like I've done all right there, except I'm at an egg there. That looks pretty flat right there. Let me expand this out just a touch. Okay. So what I do, just to keep this level, because I have this board hanging off the end of the rework station, is I stack 3 heat sinks up. And that seems to work pretty good. So maybe a little further in. Okay. So that's lined up. I'll swing that in. And the last thing is, it looks like our chip probably moved a little bit. I'd say it probably moved to the left. So here I go again. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'll double check it with my microscope. But yeah, let me focus this better for you guys. See if I can anyway. Let's take a look. Yeah, unfortunately, there's glare there, right where I'm going. Okay. So what we do now is I just put it on the hot plate of this thing. I'm going to set the hot plate to 180 degrees Celsius, and I'm going to wait. It probably won't get up to 180 degrees, but if it gets up to 120 or 130, I'm good to go. I put it up a little higher because I have a vacuum running. There's a fume extractor, and this dumb thing has a fan that blows down through it, so I'm sure that cools it off. I do need to place this guy somewhere near, so I'll put him right there. Usually he'll pick up some flux. He's not near the chip, so I don't knock it. He'll pick up some flux and really show the temperature quite well. So I'm going to turn this guy on as soon as I check the chip and make sure it's still in its place. And I'll be back when I get ready to turn on the infrared light. Okay, we made a few adjustments. The chip is lined up very well. I made sure the board was level. The bottom heater is slowly heating up. It's 166 degrees. And then as far as timing, I'll let this sit for about 10 minutes. I can check the temperature from the temperature probe. This temperature probe is actually for the infrared light. Since I have it touching the board, it will give me a general idea of how hot the board is up top. I can't set the probe on the chip because it'll move it though, so I just have to set it kind of somewhere near. So I'm going to go ahead and let this heat up, and when we get like to 110, 120, 130, I'll be pretty happy. That means everything's pretty toasty warm, and then the infrared's going to take it on up even more, and then the hot air gun's even going to take it up even more for just a short period of time while the chip sets. So, all right, so I'll be back when it is the right temperature. All right. Right now, I'm looking at about 110 degrees on here. And you may ask, why do I need the hot gun when I've got this infrared light? Can't I just put the chip on with that? I haven't been successful at that. I don't think it gets hot enough. So I always kind of do the hot plate first, and it's really hot to the touch. If I left my finger on there very long, I'd burn it. Um, the chip has stayed lined up. I don't have a lot of excess flux going out, so I have to be real careful. So I'm going to heat this guy up. And I don't know if you've ever seen it with a heat gun where you have too much flux, it starts flipping the chip up because it's boiling. The flux boils off. I don't want to do that because it just breaks all the solder connections. So I'm going to really be cognizant of my temperature going in. I've lowered it from 450 to 400. I hope I just don't get too impatient and go in there. I'm hoping this chip doesn't move. If it does, I'll do the best I can and basically, either take it off and do it again or try to reflow it while it's on there if it's close enough. But so we're at 110. As far as the infrared heat goes, I'm gonna and it'll happen really fast. I'm gonna bring the chip up to 200 degrees. But it happens so fast that there's no way all of the chip can be 200 degrees. So I let it sit there for a minute, just whacking it at 200 degrees centigrade. And then I move it up maybe to 240, 250, and then it brings it. So I set the temperature to 240, 250, and then it brings the chip up to 220, as best that sensor can tell. And then I jack it up to about 280, 290, 300, and see if I can get the chip 240, 250, and just that whole area is really hot, but not so hot it's going to explode the chip. If you guys have ever exploded a chip with a heat gun, it's because not because it's too hot, but mainly because the rest of the chip isn't that hot. The chip can handle a lot. I mean, not forever, obviously, but it doesn't have to explode because the whole chip is kind of the same temperature. So I'm going to flip this switch on and set this guy down to 200, and you'll see it come on. It's going to come up to 200 really, really fast. So here we go. Hopefully you'll see a little light come on. Yeah, you can kind of see the blink. It's really hot down there. So, and I have a viewport, so it's actually smoking. I see some flux. My fear was that flux I put on the legs went right back down into the chip. So on my end of this chip, I actually see the flux kind of bubbling out. But I'm gonna heat this up. It says it's 172. I'm just gonna let this run at the 200 level for a little while. Just warm up everything, the solder joints, just everything. If I have to, I can always add more flux. I don't know, it probably cools it off for a second, then the flux gets hot. I'm gonna try this just like it is. We'll see what we end up at. The chip looks really nice. I mean, the solder looks like it's doing its job. I see some solder boiling. The flux is kind of bouncing the chip a little bit. I wish I could show you this. I might have to get a little bit different camera set up. So right now it's 183, 186. So it's coming on up to 200. Whoa. So the chip either just popped up. Yeah, the chip's boiling right now. So that's what I was afraid of. It's bouncing up and down, but because the flux needs a place to come out. But it didn't move it. So that's a good thing. So, all right, we're at 194. Flux is still boiling it out. Boy, the pins look nice. Everything looks nice and shiny on the sides. Solder's starting to pop out. Really starting to do it. I mean, in a way, maybe this could do it. I just usually finish it off with the soldering gun. Sure looks great though. I'm gonna take this on up. I don't want to take it so much that the chip just starts flipping again. So I've moved it up to 220. So the light just stays on longer. Moving up. Flux is still kind of bouncing. I see a bubble. it just keeps bubbling out one side of the chip. But boy, the legs are really reflecting the light, but it looks like the chip is trying to boil it out. I'm just gonna let it boil it out soon. That means it's really hot under the chip. Okay, so I've got it at about 200 degrees centigrade, the chip is. I'm gonna bring my air gun in at 400. Hopefully it's not gonna make it buck. I mean, I swear those look pretty good. Take it off and have a look at it. Just like, okay, so my air gun's at 400. You can literally just turn this off, move it out of the way, move this out of the way, and now I'm gonna shoot it from top. And hopefully it doesn't get too hot. I have low air on it. You should see kind of the legs pop out with their balls. Looking good. Don't want to get it too hot here. See the legs, the flux and the solder's coming out. Just need to come out on all sides. Just kind of manipulate it. Everything's kind of boiling. I swear this chip moved over. You know, you get kind of blind. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this chip moved. I'm going to slide it over just a touch. If I can. No, that's where that chip wants to be. I tapped it. It's still far too over though. Unless I'm blind. Yeah, it's too far over. I'm going to bump it over. Seems to want to be right there. Yeah, the solder is holding it in place. I think I'm going to take the heat off and maybe hit down. We'll see. So there it is. The good thing about this hot plate, as you see, is compared to using a hot gun, I have a lot of time to work with this chip. I may not be perfect all the time, but it does look pretty good, except on the one side. But that chip wanted to position itself like that. So I'm gonna check it out. So what I'll do is I'll turn off the hot plate now when you're kind of done soldering it. And you want to let it cool down. Be patient. Let it cool down. I can't tell if it's crooked or not. Sure looks off to one side to me. But, you know, I would poke at the chip and it would come right back. That solder tension was keeping it there. So I didn't have much choice. I would have really had to force it off. So we'll let this guy cool down. I'm going to pull it off. We'll have a closer look at it in the microscope. So I'm going to put everything on pause and we'll be right back. All right, so I pulled the board off the heater, let it cool down for quite a while. I have not cleaned it yet. I'll go ahead and clean it. Kind of lost its shiny luster, didn't it? Kind of dull. Maybe we can get some of that back. I don't know. Maybe it's just the flux. So I didn't use as much flux that time, and the board didn't travel as far. But yeah, so it did get hot. You can tell. See that? All right. So let me wipe that off. Just a note, a couple notes about my soldering job. This is on that leg I'm always afraid to touch. So, I tried to, that's where we had that bridge and we're cleaning up at the beginning of the video. You can look back. So that guy's kind of a monster, but it's still probably okay. Actually, this guy got hot enough. I'm not sure these guys got hot enough to tell you the truth yet. That guy got hot enough. So I may take another round with this chip. Let's take a look over here. Remember I kept complaining that it was off to one side? You can kind of tell, well, they're here. Let me see if I can tilt it up and focus it. Kind of hard to see with this microscope because it's so flat. But things don't look that great here because the chip went too far over this way. So I think what my plan of action is going to be is I'm going to put it back on, go through the same process for heating it, and really try to get it to migrate over. I don't think any of the solder has gone to the pad. I think everybody's still got their solder. I think I'm in good shape, but I'm not sure this got to a place where it had to ball up and the chip was able to sit down because we were off a little bit. You notice this corner is just off just a little bit right there. That matters. You see the corner probably, I imagine if we're right over it, probably cuts in just a little touch. So kept looking at it. When I would nudge the chip, it would just jump right back, like the solder tension was holding it where it wanted to be, but it's really not where this chip needed to be. So I will go do this again, but bar none, I really think this is far superior over just using a heat gun with pulling the lower heat sink off. My lower heat sinks are still on because I make use of the heat sink to heat on the hot plate. You notice I didn't destroy this chip. It's not blown out. I had it on a lot of heat, but because the whole board was the same temperature, it kind of went up with the board and came back down with the board. So thank you for watching. I tested this chip. And funny thing is, on this side right here, I'm getting really good readings, what I'm supposed to. And on this side, I'm getting a little bit of high readings, higher than I'd want. So they're in the 1.36. They should be in the 1.2. So I'm going to redo this. I'm going to reflow this again and nudge it over without moving it too much and see if I can get a little bit better connection. I might test it. It might actually just be fine because again, that tension was just holding it in there just perfectly. So another thought about that tension, if maybe this was a huge solder bubble here and it was holding the chip up and the chip was floating above it, maybe it never had a chance to get here. I'm not sure. I did push this guy down though. So, oh, last point, collateral damage. Took out the resistor, took out the two capacitors. So if you're going to do this, make sure you get supplies. Get plenty of capacitors, get plenty of resistors because you're going to be changing them. Just that amount of flux and heat flowing through there. I had the heat gun, no air. I mean, turned down all the way, but look what still happened. So, but I still think this is really the way to go. This is the best. This is so much easier than using the heat gun and trying over and over and finally blowing up the chip. So, all right, thank you. Hope this video helps you. Again, hit subscribe or that bell and you can get notified. And if you're into fixing boards and have questions, YouTube is not the place to ask me. Go to Discord. You don't even have to ask me. There's other experts for your boards probably on there talking about them right now. So Discord's link is up above. You have to hit that green checkbox. Then everything appears magically. So please go do that. Join the community. And a lot of people are sharing a lot of ideas. Thank you very much.